You know, I knew something was going on here as far as McLaren. Why didn't they effect those team orders back at Hungary? Why were they sacrificing Lando Norris's championship campaign at the altar of the agency of one Oscar Piastri? This didn't make sense in real time, and it definitely doesn't make sense with the benefit of hindsight. 57 points is the delta between Messrs Norris and Verstappen. And McLaren have thrown away a lot of those. Hungary failing to double stack in Silverstone. It's been nothing if not chaos. Lest we forget when they were ordering Lando Norris to take a back step and do the switcheroo with one Oscar Piastri. Lando didn't want to do it, and the verbiage was very peculiar, was it not? Lando's race engineer came over and said something to this effect: Lando, you're going to need a team behind you. You're going to need Oscar Jack if indeed you want to win yourself a championship. Very strange wording. Back then, I felt I smelt a rat, that something else was going on here that we didn't quite know about. And rumour on the F1 curb was that Oscar Piastri had himself a clause in his contract saying that they couldn't treat him as number 2 driver. And that would make sense. Again, Oscar Jack's manager is one Mark Webber, who fell foul a very many number of times at the altar of second drivership. He indeed was demoted, again forced to put his dreams on the side while Sebastian Vettel ran away with 4 championships back to back to back to back. Mark Webber wouldn't let Oscar Jack make that same mistake, surely, but that didn't seem to hit the mark. I don't think that key fit the door as far as Oscar Jack is concerned. He's always been a bit of a sellsword, no, lest we forget the whole Alpine fiasco. Otmar Safnauer, team principal of Alpine at the time, saying they did everything in his power to keep himself Oscar Piastri, but ultimately Oscar doesn't do loyalty. He doesn't dance with the girl that brought him to the prom. Not if indeed there is another better opportunity at hand in the form of the papaya-coloured team. And that hasn't changed. Why? Because now we hear talks that Oscar is potentially in negotiations with Red Bull to secure himself a team at the Bulls, a seat even at the Bulls that are red for 2025. Oh, the humanity. It all starts to make sense now, eh? McLaren were managing in real time the stakehold of one Oscar Piastri, knowing that he has a cheeky look to the side to look at what other opportunities might be on the horizon. F1 Inside reports though today, as at the 24th of the 10th 2024, that Red Bull hints at talks with Oscar Piastri. Now look, Red Bull, the context is key here. Red Bull potentially going to 2025 with no drivers in seats. Max Verstappen has already had 2 negotiating sessions with one Toto, the boy who cried wolf. One as at the Miami Grand Prix, the second over the summer break. Yeah, they fell down, but Toto Wolff said very categorically, we've taken a step back from those negotiations with one Max Verstappen, only temporarily. Maybe we resurrect those in the future. Max Verstappen, for what it's worth, said that if he's going to continue to see his contract out to 2028, he needs 2 things: harmony within the team, he needs the people capable of putting together a car that can win races and so championships, and by extension then a car capable of winning races and championships. As at October 2024, one might make the case reasonably that Max Verstappen has neither one of those, and so no longer is the most unlikely outcome that Max Verstappen leaves his family, the team that raised him, the team that brought him into F1, to seek pastures anew, potentially in Mercedes and potentially Aston Martin, if indeed Lawrence Stroll can get his checkbook out. And this all tallies. It all starts to make sense. No longer is this just rumour and speculation. No longer is this apophony and me just being noddy and connecting dots that don't deserve to be connected. For some say that correlation isn't necessarily causality. However, we get the news today via Helmut Marko, who's always been a truthsayer. Helmut Marko always lets us know that there is no smoke without fire. He's come out and said today that Oscar Piastri is having conversations with Red Bull potentially about joining the team in 2025. Oh, the humanity. F1 Insider reports, despite the alternatives for Perez, Marko has thrown Piastri's hat in the ring, telling the F1 Insider that Mark Webber has actively seeking conversation over his driver's future, saying, this is what Helmut Marko said verbatim, Daniel, Morrell, William. He said this, let's put it this way, Mark Webber is intensely looking for a chat, a talk, negotiations. F1 Insider continues, speculation linking Piastri and Red Bull is starting to grow amid McLaren's decision to prioritise Lando Norris and his bid for a maiden F1 Drivers' Championship. This makes sense now. When you look back at the events of Hungary through this lens, with this new information, this all makes sense, right? They knew that if indeed they prioritised Lando Norris, put all their eggs in the Lando Norris maiden championship basket, that indeed they were running the risk of losing themselves one Oscar Piastri. Oh, the humanity. And for the avoidance of doubt, is there a hotter prospect on the grid than Oscar Piastri at this point in time? Lest we forget, this is only that chap's sophomore season and people are already comparing him to Alain Prost, the great ones. You saw how he handled Charles Leclerc, notwithstanding mini DRS rear wing this year, just past at Baku. And by the way, Baku is Charles Leclerc's specialist track. You saw how Charles Leclerc handled himself this weekend past, did you not? And Oscar Jack Piastri beat that dude, held him off for circa 30 laps, and that has to mean something. Oscar Jack Piastri as well knows that if there's a better offer, that this is F1, a piranha's tank of a sporting endeavour, and he will jump ship. He's a club hopper, stoic in his manner, always super impressive, a brilliant racer. You saw how he nabbed Lando Norris into the second chicane at the Italian Grand Prix. Oscar Jack Piastri is a killer, and there's not a team currently on the grid who wouldn't be in for that chap if indeed there were an opportunity to. Webber, however, Oscar Jack Piastri's manager, again, as aforementioned, suffered at the hands of one Sebastian Vettel. And so, rumour and speculation says that there's no way he would put Oscar Jack Piastri in the car with one Maximilian Verstappen alongside him. That these negotiations, that these precursory talks, if rumour is to be believed, are happening on the contingency that Max Verstappen will leave. That Oscar Jack Piastri will be Max's replacement if indeed he goes across to Aston Martin or a Mercedes under the stewardship of Toto Wolff. This is techie. Checo Perez too has got to be sweating at this, notwithstanding the aforementioned that there are a gazillion drivers just circling, waiting to take his seat. Please see one Franco Colapinto. Please see one Yuki Tsunoda, Liam Lawson, and now potentially Oscar Piastri. For the avoidance of doubt, Oscar Piastri, as reported even by the F1 Insider, again, fairly reputable source, not the most reputable, but they're reporting that Helmut Marko is saying that one Mark Webber, manager of Oscar Jack Piastri, is desperate to have talks with Red Bull with a view to get Oscar Jack Piastri in that seat as soon as 2025. If indeed one Max Verstappen, 3 soon to be 4-time champion, leaves and goes to pastures anew, Oscar Jack Piastri, ladies and gentlemen, could very well be his replacement. What are we doing here?